This is the Sofabaton X1 Smart Remote, a universal remote that you can use to control over 500,000 different devices made by over 6,000 brands. This little device gives you the perfect excuse to get rid of all your pesky, cluttered remotes and condense them all into one. And in this video, I'll be opening it, testing it out, and giving you a detailed review of all of its features. So let me show you what the X1 is capable of. Thank you to Sofabaton for sponsoring this video. So after unboxing this, I will say that the build quality was immediately noticeable. It feels pretty high quality, it has a nice and soft matte texture to it, and it is pretty ergonomic in my hand. And this remote is very thin. It's actually a lot slimmer than its predecessor, but we'll go into that later. As you may have noticed, it does have a 2-inch OLED screen on the top, and that screen is where you're going to find and choose whichever device it is you're wanting to control in real time. Right under the screen, you have a little textured scroll wheel that you're going to use to control the screen by either scrolling it up and down or pressing on it to choose an option. And I do love the fact that this has backlit keys, meaning that if you're using this in a dark room and all the lights are off, you are still going to be able to easily identify what button it is that you're pressing. Now, if you're anything like me, or if you have toddlers running around like I do, and you have issues with finding the remote sometimes, it does also have a chime built in, which you can use to find the remote by using the Sofabaton app. And you probably also noticed that the remote wasn't the only thing in the box. It did also come with the X1 hub. This hub is the brains of the operation, basically meaning that your remote is going to connect to the hub. The hub is going to be what sends out the signals to control your devices. Now, as far as specs go, this system has a few different options for the types of signals it can send out just to make it the most compatible. So it can do IR, Bluetooth, both LE or classic, or Wi-Fi, which gives you a direct link to either Roku, Sonos, or Philips Hue products. And with the built-in rechargeable battery, Sofabaton says that this should last up to 45 days on a single charge. And when the time comes and you do need to charge it, using that included cable that comes in the box, you can actually charge it up to 50% in only half an hour, so it is pretty quick. Now, as far as the hub goes, I was a little bit concerned about it at first, to be honest, because I wasn't really wanting to add another hub to my smart home. However, I will say this thing is very non-intrusive because it can actually be hidden away in a cabinet. That is not usually the case for hubs like this, especially ones that emit an IR signal, but in the box you'll find there are 2 IR blasters that you can plug into the hub, which emit that IR signal without the hub itself having to be out. So basically all I had to do was plug in the hub, hide it in this cabinet right here under the TV, and then put one of the IR blasters on top of the cabinet. That way the bulk of it is hidden away, and all that's really visible is the tip of the IR blaster, which is very small. Otherwise, for Wi-Fi and Bluetooth devices, the hub emits a 360-degree signal with a transmission range of up to 40 feet. So having it in the cabinet does not interfere at all with the ability for it to control devices that are within 40 feet of this area. Setting up the X1 remote is really as simple as plugging in the hub, making sure that the remote is charged up, and then downloading the Sofabaton app. The app is going to be the primary point of contact for you to add new devices that you want to control, set up macros or activities, or really just tweak or change any of the settings on the remote. Sofabaton has a database of all sorts of different devices that this is automatically able to connect with. Meaning that, for example, in the case of my TV, I looked up Samsung, I typed in the model number, and it automatically set all of the keybinds on the Sofabaton remote, so it already knows what to do if I press pause or turn the volume up or down. Now, if you have any products that aren't as common, which I most certainly did with some of the lights I used to control with this, you do also have the ability to manually pair the buttons as well. And basically what that means is you take your existing remote, you point it at the Sofabaton hub, you tell the Sofabaton app what button it is, and then it will learn that signal. So in the future you can relay that signal back. And you can set those keybinds to any button you want on the Sofabaton remote. So it is 100% customizable, whether you do it manually or via their database. You can always adjust the keybind to change what the button actually does. Now let's talk about activities and macros. An activity is something that you can set up in the Sofabaton app that basically lets your remote control multiple devices simultaneously. Usually when you use the remote, you just scroll through, find the device that you want to control and select it, and then use the buttons as normal. But if you set up an activity for something like watching a movie, you can have multiple devices controlled at the same time and start up at the same time, however you set it. And that means, for example, if you set up an activity where you want to watch a movie, you can have it set to turn on your TV, turn on your soundbar or your AV receiver, set everything to the right input or the right channel, and then have your TV automatically open up to your favorite streaming service. This will all happen at the same time by only pressing one button on the remote or on your phone. And although it is a little bit tedious because you do have to choose each button that's pressed, the order they're pressed in, and put delays between them sometimes so that they don't overlap, I can absolutely say that once it's set up, it's very nice to have because you'll not have to do it every time you turn on the TV again. Activities and macros are a very useful feature that I love, and they work very well on this remote. Since they're so customizable, there's basically an endless amount of ways that you can use this depending on what devices you're wanting to control and what it is that you're trying to accomplish. That all aside, one of my other favorite features of this remote is that it does also allow for voice control. Sofabaton can be integrated into Amazon Alexa or Google Home natively. All you have to do is enable the Sofabaton skill on your Alexa to get started with it. You'll have to sign into your Sofabaton account, and once you do so, all of your devices that are connected to the remote will automatically be added to your Alexa. Which means that you can say something like, "Alexa, watch a movie," to trigger your movie activity. Now, if you don't use those voice assistants, or if you're just looking to integrate into something else, the app does also have great API integration, meaning that you can trigger these activities to be started by services like If This and That, or Apple's Shortcuts app. And the way those work is very simple. It just gives you a link to copy and paste into whatever service you're using, basically set an automation that has that service open the link by whatever trigger you set. And although it's a little bit more delayed than using the remote itself, it absolutely does still work. So if you're familiar with Sofabaton at all, you might know that they actually have two different options for universal remotes. The X1 that we've been talking about, and its predecessor, the U2. So I did want to go over some of the differences between the two, just so you know which one might be a better fit for you. Firstly, when it comes to form factor, the X1 is definitely smaller than the U2 in terms of both width and the weight. The U2 just feels heavier and it's definitely not as slim as the X1. Now they do both have a screen on top, however the U2 screen is 1.3 inches, the X1 has a 2-inch screen, so it's a bigger screen as well. In terms of function, they both do have the ability to emit IR and Bluetooth LE signals. However, the X1 does have a few different options that the U2 does not, which includes classic Bluetooth for something like a PS4 or a PS5, and Wi-Fi connection with Roku, Philips Hue, and Sonos, all of which are not available on the U2. They are powered a little bit differently as well, so the U2 uses two AA batteries, while the X1 uses, in my opinion, a much more preferred option, which is a 1050 milliamp hour lithium-ion battery. And lastly, one of the biggest differences is that the X1 has the voice assistant capability, which was not a feature on the U2. Again, that means that the X1 is the only remote they offer that can integrate into Alexa and Google Home. Overall, I've been very impressed by the X1 remote. I definitely think it's a step up from the U2 remote that I tried out previously. Sofabaton is kind enough to offer 10% off for my audience, so make sure you check the description and click my link to get that discount. Thank you very much to Sofabaton for sponsoring this video, and I'll see you in the next one.